Here we go. All right. And welcome everyone to the Black Blockchain Summit. And this year we've also, gone through so much, but there's someone who's always been blazing trails, been in a shining light for all of us globally and throughout the years of this blockchain and incredible journey. We have a incredible brother, His Excellency, amazing Ambassador Gabriel Abed. Thank you, good brother, for joining us. I wanted to take this time to give us an opportunity to catch up. You've been doing so much. This is the starting point in our first meetings where, again, we were in rooms that did not look at all like us, and your ability to communicate and to tell the story of people that weren't even in the room and talk about solutions with a level of competency that probably made most of the folks in the room in awe of you. It inspired so many of us, and I'm just thankful for what you continue to do. Now, did I know you were going to be an ambassador? Now, listen, I'm keeping 100. I didn't know, but this shows like how big your brain is. What's going on? Just please want to catch up with you, sir, brother.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a whole new world for me now, Sinclair. Being the ambassador of Barbados United Arab Emirates is something that if you asked me a year ago if this what my trajectory looked like, I would have probably have laughed at you. But of course, I've had a blessed journey. I am quite stoked to see what's happening in the blockchain industry. I'm extremely proud of my nation, Barbados, and what our government has been doing around this technology and around the attempt to empower our people. And I think that for me is what excited me the most and what led me towards accepting this position to serve as the ambassador of Barbados. And I can't wait to tell you all about it and that journey and what it represents. But ultimately, the blockchain space for us has, since we last spoke in Howard University, and I think it was 2018.
Yeah.
A lot of people back then were wrongfully laughing at the statements we were making, at how this technology is going to change the world, because we had yet to see the true utility come out. And today we're seeing lots of that utility come out. We're seeing it actually impacting real lives and following real use cases that were once just vaporware or a promise. It's now a reality. And I think that for me is extremely exciting, because the naysayers have been converted into believers. And what you end up having is less resistance towards this movement, which ultimately means more empowerment of the people that are disenfranchised.
Well, I know you must feel proud and definitely even locally in the community in Barbados, they must be proud. And that the work that you've done, and coming from a country that has, in spite of colonialism, in spite of so many things, created really a community of folks that I think are just amazing. And you're really, again, we say Barbados, but even looking at the diaspora, can you make the connection to the tech in our journey as a people collectively, liberation, self-determination, like draw those connections where so oftentimes we're giving a narrative of Christopher Columbus discovered something, which is just so bizarre. And then those people who think that way are now engaged in technology. So they're trying to colonize Mars. Like, again, because I'm clear what colonialism is, I would never say colonize Mars. Like, even the thought of that's problematic to me. The fact that you are doing this in this space, representing literally representing a people, how do you see that interplay between technology, blockchain specifically, and that backdrop? And again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm an extremist. So literally, like in a more, I was going to say diplomatic way, how would you frame that technology and civilization, technology and people?
Well, actually, the right answer for this question is the actual theme that Invest Barbados came up with this year as we head into Expo 2020 in Dubai. And the theme is from sugarcane to blockchain. And honestly, I had nothing to do with the naming of that theme, nor did I even know it was going to be our theme until I was asked to join a presentation by the Invest Barbados team. And then when I saw it, I got to say it was one of the proudest moments of my life, because when we speak of Barbados, we do have a colonial history. We were part of the transatlantic slave trade. And 98% of Barbadians come from that ancestral history, and it is boiled into the current or the past form of production that we have, which is sugarcane. And so sugarcane is a representation, if you will, on our colonial history. So when I saw the statement or the theme from sugarcane to blockchain, it stood out to me that we are representing sugarcane's our colonial past, and blockchain is the freedom of our future, our, as you mentioned, our self-determination, our rights to determine what our future looks like. And so on that backdrop, our people are now being represented in a way that's saying that was our past, but this is our future, and our future is based off of us defining our own rights, us defining our own sovereignty. And that's pretty important. And I'll even go as far as to say, what another proud moment for my nation is in November, we're no longer recognizing the Queen of England as our head of state. Barbados would be one of the first Commonwealth nations to no longer recognize the Queen as our head of state. And
All right. Go ahead.
Go Barbados, go our government, go the Honorable Prime Minister Mia Mottley. I mean, these moves are very bold and grand, and for us as a small nation, I mean, we talk about India, Australia, Canada, all Commonwealth jurisdictions, but little tiny Barbados, it made this bold move. And what's impressive about that is it's saying to the rest of the world that we are here to define our future, and we are here to define our self-sovereignty. So all around, Barbados is making the right moves that quite frankly is making me proud. It's making our people proud, and it's positioning us in a whole new light.
I think, and the Prime Minister, I'm sure, is proud of what you're doing to make sure that we all are aware of that. Talking about that sovereignty, I think is a good way to segue into the technology and some of the things that you've seen. Again, we're looking at, from the NFTs to the decentralization of even being. I mean, I used to think of Eric Voorhees, and we're looking at Shapeshift and just how he was able to do some of the things, and now so much of this stuff is just a part of the landscape. Where do you see that sovereignty, that ability to connect this blockchain technology, Bitcoin? I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I don't project who I am on other folks. What would you see this technology being, how it should be, or how it's being used globally for that sovereignty you just spoke about?
Sinclair?
I'm right here, bro.
Sorry, I didn't catch your last question. I think we had a big break in the internet.
No, sorry about that. How do you see that sovereignty that you just alluded to, that Barbados is so encapsulating? How do you see that technology, this blockchain technology, connect to that sovereignty? And globally, we're looking at countries throughout the world in the application of this technology. Where do you see that?
Well, I find this question interesting because the way that a country delivers its technological solutions is a form in of itself of a country's own identity. because when you create a governance solution or you create a product for your nation, you're in essence reflecting the ways of life that were traditionally accepted as the norm through years and years of election cycles, years of development and societal growth. You're now reflecting it in a new medium. So, in essence, when a government or a country delivers a new technological solution, that is part of their identity. So, what we can expect to see is governments who are adopting this technology are going about it in a way that is bringing to life their own culture, their own image in the form of the solutions that they bring to the market. And in essence, that right there is a way of branding one's own sovereignty and guiding it. If I can go even a step further than that, it's when we see these types of events take place where a government starts to adopt this technology, what they're in essence doing is returning the power to the hands of the people. Because if I can look at Barbados as an example, if we were to use, let's just say, a European or an American solution towards our identity or land titling, we're in essence depending on those foreign nations to define how we go about delivering our solutions to our own people. We are in essence also handing them the rights to our data. We're also exporting our foreign exchange towards those nations. Whereas if we start becoming the developers, we become craftsmen of our own fate. And what's important about that is as you see the government go from facet of governance to facet, and throughout all walks of society, you start to create a more liquid government model. And in doing that, you in essence give the people the ability to have a much more fluid ecosystem, one where when I cast a vote, my vote may not necessarily be on a dead system, but instead it's on a live system that has real implementation and real-time manipulation of the state-driven society around me. And what this in essence does is it represents true democracy in the form of how we deliver technology to our people. And this to me is one of the most freeing things when we can develop our own solutions, when we could utilize our own solutions, and when we get to adopt this technology that allows us to take back the power of control in our hands. And this to me is the future where almost every nation needs to go, because what we are seeing more and more is that, yes, in the past, colonization did occur, but it's very well occurring in this day and age through technology. Right now, when we look at the fact that we're using all of these foreign products for our way of life, whether it's Zoom or Google or Skype or Instagram or Facebook, these aren't domestic products. And we're handing off our data. We're handing off who we are. We are moving away from our culture. We're moving away from our identity. So these types of solutions that you're seeing come to the market are now allowing us to take them, borrow from them, adapt them, and implement them for our own way of life. That reinstills a level of sovereignty that we just simply did not have in the past.
I think you when you just hit on those pieces, so often it's almost like a paternalistic thing, and you saw this in some of these early conferences. They would talk about these unbanked. Again, I don't like banks at all, but that's me. I'm not projecting, but literally would talk about groups of people like they were on Mars. Like there was no way to actually have someone from that community on a stage to talk about what they think about this. And I think in a real way, the mining of data, how folks are being, taken advantage of by the same colonial model, like you said, with a tech now utilization. How do we make sure our people have access to the self-determination, no matter if they live in a smaller nation or, as it relates to population? How do we make sure that we're able to empower our people to protect themselves as well as to gain access and not fall prey to some of that missionary "we're coming to save you" mumbo jumbo with a Bitcoin symbol. And you'll see it. You'll see like these crazy tokens, made up coins, and they're saying we're going to help them grow food. Like they ain't never even been to a farm. They wouldn't know what a tea leaf looked like, a coca leaf. But they're gonna help somebody with agriculture. Like, come on, man. Like, how do we gain the access? We know no, we are the innovation. They're on our back. So innovation is not foreign. We are the innovation. They didn't come. These are things they've been able to erase us. One of the things that's powerful, colonialism. They'll steal what you did and then erase you like you didn't exist to make it. So clearly, we've always been innovative. These people are late to technology. That's why they use savagery instead of enlightenment. My question is, how do we get engaged in that space where we still maintain our sovereignty, maintain the protection of the people who would do bad things to us, but at the same time not make tech scary or not make these breakthroughs scary?
I think that's a very important question, and it ultimately boils down to one of the key things, which is education. That is the cornerstone of everything, ensuring that our people are educated on what these technologies represent, how they can be adopted, and how they can be put to use within our ways of life. But then more importantly, it's also empowering of our entrepreneurs. One of the key things that our government is attempting to do right now is looking at the government problems that we do face or the societal problems, and then trying to align that with entrepreneurs. And then in essence, what you're doing is you're turning this government expense and this government inefficiency into a new product, a new exportable product that becomes a utility on the way of life. And I think that's one of the most important aspects of how you can empower your own people, by allowing your local entrepreneurs who understand the problem because they're living within it to then turn around and utilize these technologies, innovate on top of them, or innovate completely from scratch and implement them in accordance to the current problem that they see before them. And that's really important, because what you in essence have, or in essence will get, is a legion of entrepreneurs who are dedicated to advancing their own nation. And I think that is the cornerstone outside of education of society's growth, of economic mobility upwards, of seeing a nation turn around. And I think oftentimes we forget that our own people are the tools that are going to advance us. And we turn to those outside of our own nation to say, hey, he probably knows more than someone living locally because they've had more exposure, they've had more experience, they're better educated. But the reality is, humans are all equally smart. The need is to empower, to trust, and to give them the opportunity. And it's oftentimes we don't see the people with money, the government, the corporatocracies, and even our own citizens trusting each other. And it's why I said education is key, because it's in the form of that education that not only do we increase our mental capacity and intellect around a specific topic, but we are able to then turn to the person to our left or our right, give them the opportunity to try and fail or try and succeed, or both. And in doing that, what you in essence get is someone who is entrenched, someone who's already loyal, and someone who's building for the benefit of their nation. And they're looking to create local jobs. They're looking to bring in foreign direct investment. They're looking to do local implementations, and they're looking to expand globally. And ultimately, that is the winning solution, at least in my mind. And I think we're seeing countries like Barbados go down this path of where they're saying, hey, we have a problem. Rather than going to a European agency and saying, hey, can you solve this problem for us? We are now turning to our local entrepreneurs and saying, here's a problem. Who wants to try to solve it? And all of a sudden, that problem is no longer a burden on our government as a cost. It now becomes a value add to our society as an exportable product.
No, I think the point you're making is probably, having the love for open source type development in the first place, where you can have access, in ways that, again,
having the love for your own people.
Humbly having the love for our own people, humbly. I think I've seen a disconnect from that though. Like I think you alluded to it, where they rather come in with aid to do so instead of empowering the entrepreneur. I've seen even people when they talk about education, they have no problem talking to like our little kids in our community, but to talk to another grown person about this technology, they get kind of weird about that. So, in a real way, how do we make the education something that's useful to an entrepreneur, not and approachable? Let me say another way. When they talk about, and again, I think we got to start young. I'm not taking that away, but those who are now most capable and most in need, so they can provide for their family and community, are these entrepreneurs. What can we do to better empower them? We can speak to it through the blockchain, but
The
literally just
very first thing that comes to my mind, Sinclair, is pairing. And what I mean by pairing is I may not be a lawyer, but I'm a technologist. And I can create a business, but a business just isn't done by a technologist. It requires a lawyer, it requires a business development officer, it requires a financial controller, it requires an operations manager, it requires a whole team and an army of people. And if we go about this methodology of creating many, 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 many businesses and many, many, many entrepreneurs, and we pair those in society that would have otherwise have not been included, what you in essence get is cross-pollination of knowledge. You get persons who maybe was a traditional lawyer that never had experience in the technology field, all of a sudden able to apply their knowledge in a new business environment. And to me, that's one of the best degrees that you can get. A degree from a new business is, in my opinion, an acceleration beyond a university or postgraduate degree or a master's. It is one of the most fulfilling ways to educate oneself. When you immerse yourself in a company that is attempting to solve a problem, you're spending all day long in your specific field, racking your head to try to understand, how do I solve this? Because ultimately I need to save these people or this area of society. And the way to get those persons involved is by pairing them. Start many companies, be okay with failure, and get people involved, because ultimately those people are going to leave that business that much smarter. And I'm not saying go and join some Fortune 500 company. I'm saying join some hole in the ground, some garage startup, get in the roots of it and grow with that organization, because ultimately that is one of the best ways that somebody can learn. So don't feel that because, man, I'm just not a techie, or I'm not a business guy. I don't know how to get involved. Go find somebody that is a techie. Go find someone that is a business guy and pair up with them. I've seen through my walks of life in my entrepreneurial world where people approach me and said, "Hey, I don't know where to start. I only know this little bit about this little field." And it's just like, well, look, I kind of need that help actually. And all of a sudden that person in a year's time is just so useful, because they have learned so much about the field. They've learned the application of their own knowledge to that world. And even then they might have picked up some new skills. And I think that's always the best area to start. Don't feel like because you're not a techie, you can't start a tech business. You absolutely can. And it's a myth that you can't do it without the techies. It's a myth that you can't do it because you don't have that level of education. It really boils down to the pairing.
Now listen, look, I know your time is super tight, and I definitely want to add one more piece to this as we get near the end. That was powerful. I mean, of course, it's not for me to tell you. You know what time it is. Now, in this journey that that we've been on, there's been so many times where we wanted to have more of our community in these rooms participating. And one of the things that often happens that it's kind of a downer is we get our folks in this, and instead of them seeing so often the tech, they see the multi-level pyramid schemes, and they get caught up in scams and all kind of, I'm not going to name them because I don't want to give that energy, with all the multi da 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 da. How do we make sure, as we in this whole mythology of wealth, of I'm just going to do this and somehow be now super rich off a hustle scheme as opposed to actually the tech in itself. How do we help address those issues in our community, so that the clean glass is what they're drinking out of, not the dirty glass. Literally, if folks are thirsty, will drink out of a dirty glass. It's just the truth. But literally, how do we help them with this choice to the clean glass?
I think it really boils down to changing the narrative of what upward mobility and prosperity looks like and the forms at which it comes in. And that requires shepherds or mentors or guides. And it's those persons in society who have walked that path and who have accomplished those missions to turn around and explain to those at their left and their right, this is the journey that I went on, and this is the journey that you could follow or chart your own path. But ultimately, it boils down to education combined with the right type of mentorship. And it's having those shepherds in society step forward, and realizing that they themselves have a duty to guide those less fortunate than them and to help them understand that there is a way towards prosperity, and it isn't following these MLM schemes particularly, but rather one of where you're building something useful for society, and how to go about building that usefulness to society, and how to ensure what you're building is unique and has a utility offering that is different. And it's oftentimes that persons don't see that utility offering, or oftentimes where they feel as though they can't have that utility offering because they feel that I'm too late to the game, or I'm too poor, or I'm too uneducated, or I'm too disenfranchised, or the system's going to hold me back. And it's easy sitting where I am to say, well, there is a path towards success. But the reality is it takes persons like you and persons like me to tell these persons, these young people, look, the path is hard, it's ugly, it's sometimes disgusting, but there is a path, and this is what it looks like. And my path may not necessarily be yours, but at least let me share my journey with you that might help set off a light bulb so that you can see what my journey looked like and then apply it to your own world. And then the most important thing, and I said this earlier, is arming these kids with the understanding that they're going to fail potentially, and that's okay. I've fallen flat on my face many a time. Fortunately, I've been able to rise above that, and I was able to rise above that because there was others around me that explained to me that when I did fall, that it's okay. You're going to get up, and you're going to realize that it's going to become that much harder to fall the next time. And truth be told, it became much harder to fall every single time I did fall. And I think it's the young persons don't know that. So they're scared of trying something new. They're scared of being made fun at. They're scared of innovating or taking the risk because that word failure has such a negative connotation and so much pressure that society's placed on us that failure means you're going to be homeless, your loved one's going to leave you, you're going to live out of a garbage can. And the reality is that's very unlikely to happen. Failure is just a stepping stone towards your next success. And I think it's very important to have those mentors and those guides who can explain that to you and then help you see a path, but then ultimately understand one of the most important aspects is that what worked for Bill Gates is not going to work for Elon Musk, and it's not going to work for Gabriel Abed. I charted my own path the same way you did, Sinclair. And it's very important that every young person out there understands that their path is their path. And what Bill Gates did is different than what Gabriel Abed did. And I think the culmination of all of those narratives coming together and being explained in a way, and it's not just going to be one session of explanations, it's going to be several. It's going to be an ongoing mentorship game to the point where that person has passed a certain point, and then they could turn around and say, I have marched my path on my journey. Now let me turn around and help the person that's behind me.
Man, that was real. Question, and we're wrapping it up now. So how do we take this now and wrap up with what your final words for this session, and as well as a way that people can reach you and communicate with you going forward?
Okay. I think if I had to leave this session with one note, it would be to educate oneself, because information is the true power in life, and being armed with the right type of information is the difference required between success and failure. So, to the audience listening right now, it sounds like a lot of gibberish, but the reality is, get online. If you don't have access to a computer, go to a local library, go to a local internet shop, and go on Google and punch in questions, and start there. Go and find someone that you look up to in society and who you have access to, and ask them questions. And then when you climb to the next step, find the next person in society who can guide you, because ultimately it's that guidance and that source of information that's going to be the great differentiator in your own empowerment. And the way to find me is I'm on LinkedIn. You can search my name, Gabriel Abed. I'll be right there. I'm pretty active on that social media channel, and Twitter as well. My handle is at Sirbit, SIRBITT, and I'm always available to educate and to guide.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Your Excellency. I appreciate you, and brother, thank you for all your continued work. And I know this is just one more chapter after this, and I know you're supporting your prime minister, and you're doing one heck of a job, sir. I mean, definitely appreciate you. And again, thank everyone for joining us on this session.